Welcome back to Huddle Up. And before we close the show, as promised, it's time to get bold with a couple predictions ahead of NFL free agency. So many big names up for grabs this year, whether it's quarterbacks, defensive linemen, corners, wide receivers, running backs are a ton.
Yep.
We'll start off with you. Let's hear it.
I'm going to go with Kirk Cousins is going to stay in Minnesota. And this one is mainly because I think the Vikings are in an interesting spot with Justin Jefferson's contract extension looming and Kirk Cousins coming off an Achilles. I think the thing that makes me think that this is bold is because everyone needing a quarterback has been rumored to be in on Kirk Cousins, which makes sense. He's the best quarterback on the market. He's the best veteran that you're going to get. Coming off an Achilles injury, though, is tough for anyone, let alone a player of his age. I think why it makes sense for him to stay in Minnesota, though, is they've got some cap space, and I feel like they may be closer to a win now mode than they are to a rookie quarterback just being handed the keys. The deciding factor of it is, are you going to draft J.J. McCarthy, in my mind? If you can't trade up into the top three and get Daniels, May, or Caleb Williams, which you're not going to get Caleb Williams if you're the Vikings, do you feel confident in J.J. McCarthy? I personally don't, and I think your best option to win is getting Kirk Cousins and maybe drafting a quarterback later in the draft that you want to develop. I know it's not the sound kind of option, but with that cap space and with how competitive they are, they've got a great head coach. Brian Flores on defense had that team just in a different space. Like, they were competing with Josh Dobbs and just the quarterback carousel that they had. So I think if Kirk is able to bounce back, that's the best landing spot for him.
I think a big factor in this decision as well is Justin Jefferson, and he's going to reset the market at wide receiver. So do you really want to have a rookie quarterback that, in my mind, is a much bigger risk? There's an unknown factor with rookie quarterbacks. Do you want that to limit a generational talent at wide receiver? I don't think so. So sticking with Kirk, I think, would put them in a better position to do that. I want to talk about the running back market because there's so many good ones available. And the Los Angeles Chargers are a team that has made massive waves so far this offseason, bringing in Jim Harbaugh, and they got Justin Herbert at quarterback, someone who I feel like has been underachieved so far, and maybe that's not his fault. It's the fault of the product that he's had around him thus far in his NFL career. So the big thing with Jim Harbaugh is he's not a guy that wants his quarterback to drop back and throw the ball 35, 40 times a game. And his offensive coordinator that he's brought in has had a quote that's gone somewhat viral saying, imagine Justin Herbert with a good running back. And there is one running back available that when he came into the NFL was touted as just generational. And I don't think he's quite lived up to that just yet. But I think this offense that he would be inserted in would give him that opportunity. I'm predicting that Saquon Barkley signs with the Los Angeles Chargers and just really gives them a whole new dynamic because they felt a little bit one-dimensional, and Austin Eckler is a player that I really like, but I find he's more effective in the passing game, and he's not necessarily this brute running back that can run between the tackles. Saquon Barkley's a little younger. He still has that receiving ability, and I just think he can hit the heights that we all expected him to do when he came out of Penn State in that 2018 NFL draft. I'm predicting him to go to the Los Angeles Chargers, and someone's got to push these Chiefs in that division. Maybe this move can help.
I love it. And I think I'm going to stick with the running back theme here and go my bold prediction being 4 playoff teams from last year are going to have new starting running backs. This running back market is really good. When you look at the top 10, you're talking about Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, who you mentioned, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift, even Clyde Edwards-Helaire kind of rounding it out. He's got a talent. He's a talented back. So I think when you're talking about those 4 playoff teams, you're talking about the Eagles, who are losing DeAndre Swift. You're talking about the Cowboys, who have made no commitment to Tony Pollard. You're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, who have made no commitment to Gus Edwards, and J.K. Dobbins has been hurt. So maybe bringing in a guy like Derrick Henry, for example, could be pretty fun with Lamar Jackson. And then the Houston Texans, who, when you look at their offense, they really just need a running back. And it'd be tempting to draft a guy, but knowing that these guys are not going to get paid market value, that what they deserve, if you're the Texans, you got a ton of cap space, go out and get Saquon Barkley. Go out and get Tony Pollard. Maybe even Austin Eckler is that missing piece in the passing game that takes your offense to another level. So I think those playoff teams are going to go under dramatic changes on the offensive side of the football, depending on the running back they bring in, and it can elevate those teams to be even better.
especially a young quarterback like CJ Stroud, taking some pressure off of him, because I know in year 2, expectations are going to be way higher. We've seen sophomore slumps in so many guys. Bringing in someone like Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley or Austin Eckler, like you said, a veteran that can just really, really help move the chains and alleviate pressure from the quarterback in that offense, I think would be a really, really fun thing to do. I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball for my second bold prediction. The story of the playoffs was the Kansas City Chiefs defense, and they got 2 free agents there, Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. It feels like their commitment is re-signing Chris Jones to a long-term extension. He is the more valuable player there. They placed the franchise tag on L'Jarius Sneed, but I feel like that is going to eventually lead to them trading him and maybe recouping a second or a first-round pick. And it would be smart for them to trade him out of the conference just because he is such a good player. And the last thing you want to do is strengthen a Baltimore or a Buffalo or a Miami. There's one team in the NFC that I think can really, really use a lockdown quarterback. And the one thing that you've always said about L'Jarius Sneed that makes him so good is he is a guy that just shadows a number 1 wide receiver. And that is pretty rare in today's NFL. The Detroit Lions, he feels like a Dan Campbell player. He's got that grittiness to his game. He was a low-round pick, and he's become a star in the NFL. And the Detroit Lions are just, frankly, in need of help at cornerback. It was their Achilles heel on defense last year, and I think trading for a guy like L'Jarius Sneed, they have the cap space to extend him long-term and make him a focal point of their defense, I think would be a phenomenal move for the Lions.
I love it, and I think trading him out of the division is smart. Trading out of the conference is smart, because you've seen rumors that like the Broncos kick the tires on maybe calling, and it's like, that's not going to happen, okay? Like the Chiefs are smarter than that. They are not trading him within the division, let alone the conference. And I think the Detroit Lions, like you said, could take a major step forward on defense with a guy like that. You don't have to worry about. You just put him out there. He does his job. He locks down the number 1 player, and that's it. And in a division with Justin Jefferson, with some good quarterbacks, and Jordan Love and DJ Moore in Chicago, I think it's a really good pairing. My last one is going to be on the Kansas City side of things as well. And the bold prediction is I don't think they signed a free agent wide receiver, or at least a big name one like a T. Higgins if he gets to the market, which I don't think he will, or they were rumored to be interested in Mike Evans, which makes sense, but he's back in Tampa Bay. So not only because of some of the dominoes that have fallen, I don't think they're going to break the bank, but because of what we saw at the NFL Combine, because there are so many receivers in this draft that are going to be pushed down the board to 32 because of the offensive line, and offensive linemen just tend to be picked because it's such an important position. So I think receivers are going to be, because it's a deep class, pushed a little farther down the board, and that works well for Kansas City sitting at 32. But I also think that they saw it in practice last year with Rashee Rice. They saw what they can do with a rookie wide receiver that fits the skill set that they want. And there are so many different types of wide receivers in this draft with so many versatile skill sets that you can just see Patrick Mahomes having great chemistry with. So I think they go that route again and learn and take a really important lesson that they learned last year on their Super Bowl run, is that we really don't have to pay a lot. We don't. We can use our assets in different ways, and especially if L'Jarius Sneed leaves, maybe that money goes towards finding another corner to bring in. So that's my bold prediction for Kansas City, even though people probably want them to sign a wide receiver.
Well, they've just won 2 back-to-back Super Bowls, and the touchdown scorers in that game were guys like Mecole Hardman, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore. So they can get it done with just about anyone, and if they want to add in free agency, if they want to add in the draft, I've already said it. I think the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be even better next year than they were this year. But we'll see. Still lots of time to go. My final prediction, I'm going to end with where you started. And you talked about Kirk Cousins staying put. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons, because all the attention has been on the quarterback position for them. And Justin Fields has kind of been the media darling of the guy that will go into Atlanta. You know, he's got this young core, grow with them, and take this Falcons team to the next level, a level that they should be at with all the talent that they have. I think there's a little bit more of a sense of urgency in Atlanta, and Arthur Blank has been an owner to make big moves. He's been known to do that. They got a new head coach coming in there, and Raheem Morris. I just think that they're sick of mediocrity. They haven't made the playoffs in some time. They haven't had stability since Matt Ryan. They're going to go out and sign Kirk Cousins, and immediately Drake London's going to become a star. Kyle Pitts is going to live up to his billing, and you got Bijan Robinson. I talked about taking pressure off the quarterback. He's a guy that can take 25 touches a game. So I think Atlanta is in a very exciting position. I do believe they can succeed with a number of quarterbacks that are available right now, even a guy like Russell Wilson. But I do think they are going to go out and get the best one. And my final bold prediction is they are going to absolutely throw the bag at Kirk Cousins. They missed out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes because they didn't want to give all that guaranteed money. Kirk Cousins has always had fully guaranteed contracts. They're going to go out and do that once again.
Interesting spot, and I love it. I just imagine what the Falcons offense would look like with Kirk Cousins distributing the ball. He's so underrated. Like, he's a top 10 guy for the most part. And before he got hurt last year, he was arguably having the best season of his career. And now you add in those weapons. Offensive line in Atlanta is pretty solid too. This is a team that's kind of just brewing, and if they add him, turn up the temperature, turn up the heat. Like, they are the favorites in the NFC South by far if they get Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, it's a wide open division. I'd even argue it's a pretty wide open conference. We've seen different teams get to the Super Bowl every single year in the NFC, whereas the AFC's just kind of been very, very dynasty heavy, whether it's the Patriots or the Chiefs. But yeah, I'm super excited to see how all these dominoes fall as NFL free agency kicks off in just about a week's time. Super, super excited, and we'll see if these predictions come to life.
I'm excited to see it too, and thank you so much for joining us. We'll be here to react to all of the free agency dominoes that fall in a couple of weeks, but until then, enjoy the chaos.